Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back. I just wanted to make a video talking about this whole Rebel Moon situation and look at the Rotten Tomatoes scores. I know I did a first reactions video yesterday, but wow, this is a lot worse than I thought it was going to be. My prediction was around maybe high 50s, low 60s maybe for the Rotten Tomatoes score for Rebel Moon Part 1. And wow, it is very, very far below what I thought. And I sort of want to talk about what this means and why this is happening, what this could be for the future of this potential franchise. And I just want to talk about the whole situation within fandom right now, specifically the Snyder fandom and what everything going on with that, right? So let's just get into it. So currently, Rebel Moon Part 1 has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 24% critic score and a 71% audience score, which is much more encouraging or much more positive than the critic score. But typically audience reactions do tend to be more positive on pretty much every film. And yeah, it's just very disappointing to see this Rotten Tomatoes score for Rebel Moon. I felt like the first reactions were not that negative. Like there were quite a lot of negative ones, and I did say in the video to keep in mind that typically they tend to be more positive, the first social media reactions. But never would I have imagined it got a 24. It started with a 9%. I mean, it's risen up to 24. It's not like it dropped. It rose up to 24. So it started initially worse. But yeah, I got to tell you, this does nothing for my excitement for the film. I've been very excited for it. But this is just like on another level. It's very disappointing to see because Zack Snyder is a filmmaker who I do appreciate, right? Like I appreciate some of his films. Obviously I don't like other ones. I'm very neutral on Snyder. I said that in my last video. I am not a Snyder hater and I'm not a Snyder cultist, I guess people call them, or a Snyder fan, right? I'm neutral on him. If he makes a good movie, he makes a good movie. If he makes a bad one, he makes a bad one. And yes, it's possible that he could just be making a bad movie now. The movie just is bad. But there's a lot of people pointing out, like on Twitter specifically, that that there is this sort of agenda against Snyder, I guess, and against his movies, which I'm very much sitting on the fence with, because it's hard not to deny that his films just, they have such like a negative tint on them, and the way critics talk about them as well is like very strange and very different to how they talk about other filmmakers. I've got some examples here on Twitter which I'll just pull up, but I just had these saved. So these are a few examples of tweets from, or not tweets, from reviews from like on Rotten Tomatoes, right? From professional critics. This is from Variety. And they say, Rebel Moon, while eminently watchable, is a movie built so entirely out of spare parts that it may, in the end, be for Snyder cultists only. Now, it's very strange in the first place for a director to have fans be referred to as cultists. Like, you don't see Tarantino fans referred to as Tarantino cultists, or you don't see Scorsese fans referred to as Scorsese cultists, or for any other director for that matter. It's just not seen. It's only ever seen in this context with this director. And I guess it could be, there is an argument to be made that some of that could come from the whole thing with the Snyder Cut, right? And being like, release the Snyder Cut, and people just being just so die-hard about it. And there were some crazy fans in that whole era. But I think labeling people who really like Snyder as a Snyder cultist is a little bit strange, right? It is. But I've also, at the end of the day, I've seen some people on Twitter take it really far and be like, you know, on the opposite side, and be like, oh, this movie's getting rotten scores. That means that every critic is out to get him, and the industry just wants him destroyed. Which I do find it hard to believe. While there is an argument to be made that some of the critics are speaking strangely about it, and the whole situation is strange, I just think, is it possible that maybe he made another bad movie? You know, maybe the critics aren't paid off to hate him. Maybe there isn't some agenda against him. Maybe he just made a bad movie that people aren't liking, you know? And people are also using this as an excuse to be like, oh, don't trust Rotten Tomatoes. This is why you should never trust Rotten Tomatoes. But then when films they like get a good score, oh, look at the Rotten Tomatoes score. Look at how good the score is. It makes no sense. You can't have it both ways. It's either rigged or not, you know? And so, yeah. But so that's just one of the reviews. Let's take a look at another one. This next one says, everyone but the hashtag release the Snyder Cut fanboys would be better off immediately ejecting this turgid whimper of a movie into the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Now again, what a like unnecessarily sort of aggressive way to talk about a movie. Like there must be some, like again, to the Snyder fans' points, there must be some validity to the fact that there is some sort of hatred, I guess, for Snyder, or some sort of disdain for him from the critics. It makes it very hard to pick a side in this argument, because I really do see both sides. You know, this is a very aggressive way to talk about a film you didn't like, saying immediately ejecting it into the furthest reaches of the galaxy. Like, is it that bad? And also, is it specifically people who wanted to release the Snyder Cut that are going to love this film? I mean, I was in favor of them releasing the Snyder Cut. I wasn't like a massive proponent of it. Like, I wouldn't have been that upset if they didn't. I was interested to see it. And at the end of the day, I didn't really enjoy the Snyder Cut that much. It's definitely better than the original cut, the Justice League, but I didn't really think it was that much better, and I thought it was too long, and yeah, things like that. But I don't know, it's just it's an aggressive way to talk about not liking a film. Anyway, let's take a look at this next one. This next one says, Zack Snyder is a pop fantasy filmmaker who now has a fanboy cult around him. In the 2 decades since he made his feature directorial debut with the grainy, unsettling 2004 reboot of Dawn of the Dead, Snyder's flamboyant fusion of visual wizardry. It's strange that people talk about the cult, right? I was only supposed to read that highlighted bit, by the way. It's strange that people refer to it as a cult. People who like the films, oh, they're Snyder cultists. It's a cult. But at the same time, I have seen there are some really weird fans, like fans that I rarely ever see for other directors, that just are diehard for him. Every movie is a masterpiece that he makes, and fucking, you know, if Rotten Tomatoes doesn't like it, they're rigged, and they want this man's career destroyed. And I gotta tell you, Zack Snyder himself just seems like the nicest guy, like in interviews and stuff. I don't know what it is about him that people just, you know, either hate or absolutely fall in love with. He just seems like a regular director. He's a nice guy, you know. Everyone he works with seems to enjoy him. And you know, he's made a few bad movies in, you know, the populace opinion. And so it is just a strange phenomenon that this director specifically has acquired. But yeah, so let's take a look at this next one, which is also quite strange. Just seconds into the lead-in sci-fi saga Rebel Moon Part 1 and Child of Fire, it's clear the director is back to indulging his worst tendency for self-serious bombast. Now, like, what the fuck is that? Like, it just feels so unnecessarily aggressive. And I'm not out here trying to be like, oh, they're so mean to Snyder, he doesn't deserve this, you know. But it is so strange. Everything surrounding him is strange. This same thing happened with Army of the Dead, by the way, which was received better by the critics, but, you know, not as well as Snyder fans would have hoped. But the same thing happened. People came out saying there's an agenda against him. Other people came out saying he's an awful director. It's just so strange. It's a very strange phenomenon that I've noticed with him specifically. And again, I was rooting for this film to do well, right? I was, because I think he's a nice guy. I've enjoyed his other previous films. He's been working on this for a while, or from what I've seen, I think he's a nice guy. He's been working on this for a while. This was supposed to be his big comeback after the Snyderverse. And, you know, Netflix seemed to have a lot of faith in it, talking about, oh, we're going to do spin-off shows, we're going to do other movies, we're going to do spin-off movies, we're going to do comics, we're going to do books, we're going to do cartoons. This was all said by Netflix about this film and about this franchise. It was meant to be like Netflix's big thing, I guess. And look, at the end of the day, it could be if the viewership is there, but right now the audience reception and critic reception just isn't there. A 71% audience score is okay, but audience scores typically are very high, like high 80s, low 90s. And so yeah, it is just it's strange, and it's disappointing to see this. I just feel for Snyder, I really do, and everyone involved with this film, and for Netflix. It was supposed to be the next big thing, and a 24% on Rotten Tomatoes is just disastrous. And to the argument of the cultists versus the like Snyder antis or whatever, I do see both sides, and so I'm sitting on the fence with this, because I do see both sides. Yes, I've seen critics come out and be so unnecessarily aggressive towards Snyder and his films for some apparent reason. But then I've also seen people say, oh, if his movies get a bad review, it's rigged. All his movies are a masterpiece. And it's like, no, it is possible that he's just made a bad film. And so, yeah, the whole situation is strange to me. I just wanted to get on here and talk about it because the whole thing is weird. I think that this is an unfortunate disaster. It's a disaster. The movie was expensive as fuck. It's not getting a full theatrical release. I made a video a while ago saying it should. It's not. I think it's getting a very select, very limited release in theaters. So Netflix obviously doesn't expect to make their money back. But the investment they did take on this was trying to get its next big franchise, which they eventually could release in theaters if it was big enough. Or, you know, have another hit show with the spin-off show they're going to do. I don't know. But it is a very very unfortunate situation. And we'll see if Netflix moves forward with this franchise. I mean, if the viewership's there, they will. But right now, the critic and audience reception is not. The film comes out on the 22nd of December. I will be watching it and I will be reviewing it, so keep an eye out for that. Make sure you subscribe and turn on post notifications so you know when I upload that video. It will be coming the same day the film comes out. So yeah, I did just want to get on here and talk about that. But that's it for this rant, I guess. This little this little rant. That's it for it. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed, please consider liking and subscribing. It would really help me out. Go check out all my other videos if you haven't already. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.